I live in a state that has been reaching 100 degrees every day. I don't have a house with vents, so it gets very hot. I have close to a $400 Arctic King air conditioner that I thought would do us good. So we started to install it, and the heat made every person cranky, my boyfriend included. I'm a very quiet person, so when I sensed he was getting irritated, I was patient with him. My little job in helping was to tear off the pieces of duct tape and hand them to him while watching the baby, who he told me should be fine because she was on the ground with her toys. So, since I was also hot because I had driven my car with no air conditioning just an hour prior, I listened to him and handed him the tape. Within a span of literally maybe a minute and a little more, she made her way over to his gaming setup and pulled his controller and headset off the table. Nothing hit her, but he said to me rudely, "That is why you're supposed to watch her. Because if that would have hit her, I would have been angry." And all I passively said to him was, "I'm sorry, I didn't know she was right there, and I didn't know she would get there that fast." He said that because of that, she had to come up on the bed where we were sitting. I didn't say anything, but my face was trying to process how I was going to be able to tear tape, give it to him, and watch her or keep her from falling off the bed. So in my mind, I kept her close to me. She didn't like that I wasn't letting her try and fall off the bed. I understand babies are squirmy, and that's perfectly okay. So because she was put in one spot, she would grip my skin, pinch, and then scratch downwards. I didn't say anything to her for doing that, but I would make the typical tss sound because baby nails are razor sharp when not cut in a timely manner. He stared at me with an ugly look on his face and said, "She's a baby. She's going to scratch you. Get used to it." And I said that she was pinching and scratching me because I wouldn't let her off the bed, and that it just stings because my sweat and the scratches don't mix well. I left it alone and carried on with handing him tape while he mumbled stuff under his breath. He would often jumble the tape and end up not being able to use it, so he threw it down on the bed. The baby would see that and try to grab the tape. I was able to grab it from her before she put it in her mouth, but she became fascinated with me tearing the tape off. She crawled to me and first tried to grab the roll of tape from my hand and then the little bit I had in my opposite hand. When she did this, he was not watching, and so I calmly and quietly said, "No, just no." He immediately stopped everything he was doing, pulled her away from me, and picked her up. He said, "You're not going to talk to my daughter that way. If she's such a burden for you to watch, you can get your things out of my room." I went into defense mode and said, "I just said no because she was trying to eat the tape." I spoke to her calmly, and she didn't even stop. That's how passive I was with her. He told me that since I didn't validate his feelings as a father, and that because I was much more busy defending myself, that meant he was right about me having a tone or attitude towards her. Why would I admit to something I'm not guilty of? I'm currently in my first trimester with my first baby, and I'm sick and very tired all the time. He told me to get my stuff out of his room. I pay rent and utilities while he buys whatever he wants, and that we were done. So I did. That included a 65-inch television, a nightstand, and my king-sized memory foam mattress that felt like it weighed more than me. I'm sure I'm exaggerating, but I am 4 feet 11 inches tall, and then an air conditioning window unit. I told him if I moved this stuff, there would be no coming back from it, and that he better remember this was his doing. He has no problems with that. We argued while I moved my stuff, and then I went to my mom's house for a bit, because emotionally I was not doing too great. When I came back home, I went to my room, and he would find little excuses to come in and say something until he asked me to help set up a baby pen. I said sure, because I had nothing else to do. When I went in, we fiddled with it for a little while, and then he started talking about what happened. "Why did you get so upset when I told you that you had an attitude with my daughter?" To which I replied, "Because I didn't, and you made me feel like I won't be able to be a crucial part of my stepdaughter's life if you get so irate over a calm no at her. I can't be with someone who's going to yell at me every time I'm supposed to watch over a baby, but cannot verbally stop her from things that can hurt her." He did apologize for yelling at me and said that he's just a dad, and when I have my baby that I'll understand. I looked him dead in the eyes and said I would never do that. That is over the top. And if I want someone to watch my baby, I'm accepting that they'll be told, no, stop, or don't do that. That's only natural. He brushed what I said off and then asked me if I'd be moving my things back into the room with him. And I said no, that I told him there wouldn't be any going back on what he said and did. He told me he didn't need my help any longer and that I could leave his room. Did I do this right? He made me feel so insane for just trying to stop her from putting tape in her mouth. I didn't want her to choke or get the adhesive in her mouth, and it felt like I did the wrong thing in trying to protect her while I watched her and multitasked. I'm really needing advice. I feel so lost and hurt right now. To add, I really did not expect this post to blow up the way it did. I want to clarify that some people think my post is fake. I wish it were. I'd like to address that. I used to be married to a different man and divorced him last year for abuse. I had a pressured baby unaliving from my ex and was on birth control since. My birth control failed even though I never missed a day on it. This is only my second relationship, and while I may seem naive, I'm doing my best for someone who's relatively new to relationships outside of my failed marriage. About a pregnant 4 feet 11 inches tall woman moving a king-sized mattress, I work at Amazon. Turning a bed on its side and pushing it is doable for me, but did I enjoy it while I was throwing up and exhausted? Absolutely not. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So he's 20 years old, has an 11-month-old baby, and also got you pregnant? And you're the one paying for everything? Girl, come on now. Do you really want to be tied to this red flag of a human for the rest of your life? Please respect yourself and kick him out and reconsider having this child. He is verbally and emotionally hurtful and walks all over you. You deserve better. Comment 2. He asked you why you got upset after he instantly told you to get your belongings out of his room because of the wrong tone of voice while dealing with his daughter. I mean, you say he came up to you, took his daughter, and told you that, right? He seems to not be able to see fault in himself at all. Now, for the update, I'm not sure how to explain this, but things have gotten a bit better after that whole air conditioner drama. I'll just share what happened. A couple of weeks passed after that whole fight about the air conditioner. Yeah, I know, it was a pretty hot day, and we were feeling cranky, but still, guess we needed to calm down. Whatever. My boyfriend texted me one day asking if we could meet up. I was like, I guess. We agreed to meet at some diner for brunch, which is such a classic thing to do, right? So I got there first and sat nervously at a booth, like a total dork. I didn't know what to expect. He showed up late, looking way more relaxed than he had in weeks. Like, dude, where's your stress? He ordered pancakes while I just stuck to coffee because I was already feeling jittery about the whole thing. We exchanged some small talk about our baby's milestones, which is pretty much what we talked about in the past, but it was better than silence. He mentioned he had been thinking about that argument we had. He actually apologized for raising his voice. I mean, that's something, I guess. But then he went on to say he still felt overwhelmed, like a kid who didn't get their way. Yeah, I was listening, but I felt like I was talking to a brick wall. We moved on to talk about our parenting styles. He was all about strictness. I get it, but there's a difference between being strict and just being mean. We talked about planning a family outing to the beach, which sounds fun, but then he suggested inviting his parents. I felt a little uneasy about it. He insisted it would be good for the baby to see family. I reluctantly agreed, but set some boundaries about what their visit would be like. A few days later, we went to the beach with his parents. Honestly, they brought a ton of beach toys and snacks, so I was impressed. The baby was loving the sand, giggling, and crawling around. It was adorable, but then his mom started giving unsolicited parenting advice. Like, can we just enjoy the beach and not talk about parenting? I felt uncomfortable, but tried to be polite. The awkwardness rose when his mom suggested changing the baby's diaper in a public restroom. Like, no thanks. I insisted we find a more private spot. I wasn't budging on that one. I was surprised when the dad quietly supported me. That was a shocker. My boyfriend looked annoyed, but he eventually gave in. After the beach, we all went back to his place for dinner. But guess what? His parents just kept on with the parenting advice. It was like a never-ending lecture. My boyfriend didn't take it well, though. He was all like, "They're just trying to help, so chill." I left the dinner table to cool off in the kitchen. I needed a break from that nonsense. While I was in there, I overheard my boyfriend kind of defending me to his parents. He told them they needed to respect my boundaries. I was surprised, but also kind of relieved. After dinner, we went home, and he apologized for the whole tension thing. He suggested we have a serious talk about our parenting approach. So we discussed making a parenting plan together. I was like, finally. He expressed that he wanted us to be more of a team. We both agreed to focus on communication and setting mutual boundaries. I know it's a lot, right? But honestly, it felt like we were making some progress. Not all hope is lost. Mini update. After the beach outing, we realized our communication needed work. We had a serious talk about our parenting approach. It felt good to be on the same page. We decided to make a parenting plan together, focusing on what we both wanted for our child. We agreed to set mutual boundaries and communicate openly. We even scheduled a weekly chat to discuss anything parenting related. It's a step forward, and I'm hopeful we can keep improving together. Am I the idiot for fantasizing about divorce despite my husband being a good man? I have been married to my husband, who is 38 years old, for 12 years, and we have been together for 14 years. We have 2 wonderful children, an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son, and have built a great life together. I have no complaints about the man I am married to. He is loyal, honest, and a hard worker. He does everything for us and adores both me and our children. I have never had to question his faithfulness. He has never been the slightest bit hurtful, and he keeps up with his end of the housework, plus more, if I'm honest. He is not perfect, but he is an amazing husband, father, and friend. However, I have not been attracted to him for years and find myself wondering if I'm in love. I adore the person he is. He is my absolute best friend. But I often find myself fantasizing about being alone. I don't think about dating or being with other men. I'd be fine being single. I have thought about divorce so many times in the past 4 years or so, but always pushed those thoughts aside for our family. They have become more frequent lately, and I am not sure how to handle it. Yes, we go on dates frequently and try to find activities that we enjoy together. I have been pushing myself to be intimate with him more in the hopes that I will overcome all these feelings. But I just find myself not turned on in the slightest. It has nothing to do with his physical appearance. He is very handsome and takes care of himself. I just am not into it. I have started therapy individually to help process these feelings, as well as deal with past personal trauma. I have also set up an appointment for marriage counseling for us, although I'm not sure if that will do any good since we don't really have any problems to talk through. Our relationship is great and we rarely argue. We agree on a lot and take care of our home and children as a solid team. This would be so much easier if he wasn't so great. I despise myself for saying that I am considering divorcing such a wonderful man. It absolutely breaks my heart to think that I'd be hurting him and hurting our children. I'm not saying that I will divorce, but I have certainly considered it multiple times. I have no real reason to leave other than unhappiness on my part. I know he'd go out of his way to try to make me happy. However, I don't think there's anything that can be done on his end. I am prepared for the awful comments I'll receive here. I'm just curious if anyone has been in a similar situation and how you've dealt with it. I'm so torn between spending the rest of my life sacrificing my own happiness for that of my husband and best friend and children, or risking it all to find myself. Now for an update. Wow, I really was not expecting this post to blow up like it did. I appreciate all the feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I started individual therapy last night and want to focus on that a little before we begin marriage counseling. I understand that I personally have a lot I need to work through. I also intend to speak to my primary care physician about getting my hormones checked, just to make sure that's not an underlying source. I currently do not take any medications. I have no intention of leaving or making a decision about divorce anytime soon. I plan to do a lot of work on myself and really make an effort in our relationship before even considering leaving. Yes, we do go on dates. Yes, we have tried spicing things up in the bedroom. No, I do not have my eye on anyone else, nor do I even care about dating in the future. I do not have a lot of time to myself. I have never taken a trip on my own, not even a girl's trip. I would like to give that a try, although I feel like that will hurt my husband's feelings as well. He is very much into doing things together and doesn't always understand how much I need alone time. I will look into finding hobbies for myself, although I truly don't know where to start. I am not giving up on my marriage. Ideally, I would love to make this work, and I am willing to put in the effort to at least try. The last thing I want to do is throw away all this time together, and it physically pains me to think I might hurt him. I was simply venting to some internet strangers, looking for advice and seeing if there was anyone out there who has been in my shoes. This is a journey, and I'm not sure where it will end up, but I do want to put forth my best effort in improving myself and hopefully saving my marriage as well. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. OP, this is very, very normal, at least in my observations. So at least find comfort in that. It's good that you're proactive about addressing this, and the only advice I have is what you already set up: therapy and marriage counseling. The latter will help, as the counselor will assist you in communicating your feelings to your husband. The former will get to the bottom of why you feel that way and what you can do to handle it. Don't divorce. Don't start the process. This is at this point a rough patch. You have to see if you can get through it first. Comment 2. OP, I highly recommend getting your hormones checked out and getting an evaluation for depression or anxiety before you consider approaching your husband with a separation or divorce. Additionally, do you have any hobbies or interests outside of your marriage and children? If after a medical or psychological evaluation and therapy, you find yourself still considering a divorce, perhaps try a trial separation for a month and go from there. Now for the update. 3 days after my last post, I scheduled a follow-up therapy session to talk about my thoughts on the marriage. I really wanted to get my feelings clear and make sense of the whole situation. My therapist was super helpful and suggested that I take a weekend trip alone to clear my mind and reflect on everything. Honestly, I wasn't sure a weekend alone would really solve my problems, but I figured it was worth a shot. I ended up renting a small cabin by the lake, thinking the quiet would help me gather my thoughts. Just me and the sounds of nature. I arrived on a Friday afternoon, got settled in, and then spent the rest of the day just chilling. It was nice to be away from my regular life for a bit, but I also felt kind of weird. I guess I was just trying to figure out what I wanted from this trip. During the trip, I got a text from my husband asking how I was doing. I was surprised to hear from him, but then again, I shouldn't have been. I replied, saying I was fine and enjoying some time to myself. Just a little getaway, you know? My husband sent a follow-up text asking if I wanted him to join me for the last day of my trip. That caught me off guard. I had thought this was going to be a solo trip for some deep self-reflection. I hesitated, but ultimately said yes, wanting to keep communication open. Plus, the kids were going to be with my in-laws for the weekend, so I figured why not. The next day, he arrived with a picnic basket and a bunch of flowers. I mean, how sweet is that? We spent the afternoon by the lake, talking about the kids and our plans for the summer. It was nice to just relax and enjoy each other's company. We returned to the cabin, and he tried to initiate intimacy, but I pulled away. I felt bad for doing that, but I just wasn't in that place yet. Later, while I was packing, I found a note in his bag, addressed to me. The note expressed his love and commitment, assuring me that he would work on things together. It was the sweetest note, and I couldn't help but feel emotional. On the drive home, I kept replaying the note in my mind. When we got home, the kids were excited to see us and greeted us at the door. I missed them so much. We spent the evening as a family, but I felt an underlying tension. I could tell my husband wanted to talk more about the weekend, but I wasn't ready for that yet. The next morning, I dropped the kids off at school and decided to visit my sister for coffee. I figured a little sister time would be good for me. While at her house, she mentioned how happy she was for me and my husband. I didn't know how to respond, so I just smiled and nodded. I mean, we were happy, right? My sister then brought up a recent conversation with our parents about family vacations. She suggested we all go together, and I felt a pit in my stomach. Family vacations always sounded great, but with everything going on right now, I just wasn't sure. That evening, my husband brought up the family vacation, suggesting we make it a priority. We talked about it a bit more, but I just agreed to look at possible dates. No harm in checking, right? A few days later, I saw my husband talking to a neighbor in our yard. I overheard him discussing plans for the vacation, sounding enthusiastic. It was nice to hear him excited about something, especially with everything else going on. I decided it was time to be honest, so I asked him to sit down after dinner. He looked a little surprised and said sure. To my surprise, he listened closely and asked if I wanted to postpone the trip. We agreed to delay planning the vacation until I felt ready. The next week, we went to a family birthday party for my niece. I noticed my brother and sister-in-law were arguing quietly in the corner. Their argument escalated in front of the family, drawing attention and concern. It was awkward, to say the least, and I felt bad for them. My parents tried to step in and help, but it ended up just making things worse. My brother ended up storming off, and my sister-in-law was in tears. It was heartbreaking to see, especially when we were trying to have a fun family get-together. My husband and I talked a little about it on the way home. It made me think about how important it is to communicate, even when things are tough. I want to make sure we don't end up like that. Edit. I realized my sister's comment about family vacations was a hint for my husband to surprise me with a trip. Am I the idiot for proposing a family gathering to honor my biological mother and causing tension among my siblings? My mother is not my biological mother, but I will be referring to her as my mother in this post because that's what she is to me. My biological mother passed away giving birth to me, and I was raised solely by my father for the first 3 years of my life until he met my mother. They got married months after my 6th birthday, and they have had 4 more kids. My mother always treated me like her own and never let me feel like an outsider or like a half-sibling. I was always her son and the big brother to all my siblings. Yesterday, I had my 18th birthday, and I spent the afternoon with my family and went to a party with my friends in the evening. When I got back home, everyone was already asleep, and there was an envelope on my pillow. I opened it, and it was a letter that my mother had written, addressed to my 18-year-old self, the day before she married my father. 12 years ago, she wrote that letter telling me that she would never dishonor my biological mother's memory, but would try her best to be a mother figure to me. She promised to kiss my forehead every morning before I got on the school bus. She promised to always encourage my interests, and she would try her hardest to come to every practice and game of mine. She promised to never differentiate between me and any potential future siblings in any way, and many more beautiful promises. She ended it by saying, "You're an 18-year-old now, an adult, and are hopefully heading to college soon, and you no longer have any formal reason to maintain a relationship with me. But I truly hope that in these last 12 years, I was able to be a loving mother and fulfill all my promises to you. I can only hope that you will continue to give me the privilege of being your mom, because you will always be my son. I love you." And included a picture my father took of her and my 3-year-old self at a zoo. Like my father, I'm a stoic but in tune with my emotions kind of person. This letter had me crying, and I have not been able to stop reading it again and again, and it's currently 4 o'clock in the morning as I type this. My mother fulfilled every promise she made 12 years ago, and I genuinely can't imagine life without her. She opened her arms and heart to a boy who she had 0 biological responsibility toward, and has been the most loving and supportive mother I could possibly ask for. How do I even begin to thank her for everything she did for me? What's something big or small I could do to show how grateful I am for her? Now for an update. Holy cow, I didn't expect this to blow up. Thank you for all the kind words about my mom. When I woke up, I read some of the comments and went straight to my mom and told her everything I wrote in the post. And I honestly couldn't keep it together and cried a little bit. I told her that no matter what, she was my mom and I loved her. I told her how much I appreciated her for all her love and support and that I was proud to be her son. She also cried a lot and just told me that she loved me and that she's very happy to have me around for a couple of extra months. I should be starting college in a few weeks, but I'm committed to a college for football and will be enrolling in January instead while just taking community college classes and training right now. I'm planning to take her to the zoo and recreate the zoo photo, and I want to give her some kind of jewelry. I haven't figured out the jewelry part exactly, but I will eventually. For now, I just want to cherish these last couple of months before college and help my mom around the house however I can. Also, letters to our future selves is something I can get behind. Like a letter I write now and give to my mom before I get married, or something would be nice. By the way, yes, she already legally adopted me on my 10th birthday, and I've been calling her mom or mama for as long as I can remember, for those who were asking. Also, a big thank you to the people who privately messaged me saying she didn't fulfill her promises, since there's no way she could have gone to every single practice and game. I'm pretty sure she didn't know she was going to have 4 more kids and that I would end up playing 3 sports since middle school back then. Some people just can't be happy or let others be happy, laughing my butt off. Now, for a few comments before the update. Here's what you do. You give her a big hug, kiss her on her forehead, and tell her she fulfilled every promise. Promise. That's all you have to do. But if you go away to college or university, text or call her at least once a week too, crying at this act of love on both sides. Simply go give her a hug, like the really good kind, and don't let go first. Let her let go first. Moms of sons appreciate that and just say thank you. Now for the update. I'm back with an update from my last post about my mom and me. It's been a month since that conversation, and wow, so much has happened. First off, I took my mom to the zoo, like I promised. It was a blast. We went to the exact spot where we took that old picture, and my mom started tearing up. Of course, I was a little choked up too, but I held it together because I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of all those people. We tried to recreate the photo, and it was hilarious because we both forgot how we posed. We ended up with these goofy faces, but I can't lie, it was so much fun. We spent the whole day there just laughing and enjoying each other's company. I can't even remember the last time we had such a good time together. Then I surprised her with the jewelry I got her, and she absolutely loved it. It wasn't like super expensive or anything, but it was this bracelet that had the initials of all her kids on it. It even had mine, and she just started crying all over again. I know, more tears, but it was just so heartwarming. It felt so special to see her so happy. After that, I started college, and let me tell you, it's a whole new world. Between classes and football training, I'm pretty much busy all the time, but I'm loving every second of it. Football is super intense, but I'm holding my own. During practice the other day, my coach actually praised me for my hard work, and it felt so good. I've never had someone notice what I was doing like that. My mom came to my first game, and she was the loudest one in the stands. I could hear her cheering my name from halfway across the field. After the game, I introduced her to my teammates, and they were all super nice to her. It's like she got a glimpse into my life here, and it made me feel really good. My siblings have been great too. They've been really supportive and excited about my achievements. It means a lot coming from them since they all have their own things going on. One evening we were having dinner, and my little sister Kate asked about my biological mom. She wanted to know why I didn't grow up with her, and it kind of took me by surprise. I started telling them the story about how my biological mom passed away when I was born, and how my dad married my mom when I was 6. They all listened quietly, and I could see my mom getting a little emotional. Then she started talking about how she always wanted me to feel like I belonged, and that's why she never treated me differently. The mood at the table changed a little, though. Some of my siblings looked uncomfortable, and I could tell they didn't know what to say. It was kind of awkward, but we just moved on. A week later, I found an old photo album in the attic, and it had pictures of my biological mom. I decided to show them to my mom during dinner, and we ended up talking about the past. We laughed at some of the old pictures of my dad with really bad hairstyles. My older brother Jake asked about family traditions, and I suggested we create some new ones that included my biological mom's memory. That's when things got a little heated. My dad said he wanted to let go of the past, and I could feel everyone getting tense. My mom backed me up and said it was important to honor my biological mother, and it sparked a big debate. We ended up discussing how we could involve her memory in our future celebrations, and I proposed a family gathering on the anniversary of her passing. Some of my siblings were unsure, but others were all in for it. We planned to have it at our family home, and I invited everyone. As the date got closer, my dad seemed really distant. I overheard him talking to a family friend about the gathering, and he was questioning its purpose. I confronted him about it, and we had a heated discussion. I laid out my intentions clearly, telling him I just wanted to honor her memory. He eventually agreed to attend, but remained unconvinced. On the day of the gathering, the atmosphere was a little tense, but hopeful. We shared stories, and many people brought memories to honor my biological mother. To my surprise, my dad ended up sharing a heartfelt story about her, which shocked everyone. It was a really emotional moment, and it kind of made everything worth it. The gathering became a new family tradition, and it symbolizes growth and acceptance for all of us. So yeah, that's what's been going on in my life. Things have been crazy, but I wouldn't change a thing. To answer a few questions, my mom has been supportive of the new family tradition, and it has brought us all closer. The gathering gave my dad a sense of closure, which was unexpected. My biological mother's family has also joined in, making it a big event that everyone looks forward to. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.